It's the 1-for-1 plus 1. Like John and Kate plus 8, but it's the 1-for-1 plus 1. So it's actually really different. There's not a darkness looming over a household of a million children as their parents confuse the viewer on how they ever loved each other. It is instead the 1-for-1 plus 1. Hey y'all, and welcome to Clove Room in my first video of 2024. We are back to the standard intro. Clovemas has concluded, but what a joyous Clovemas it was. I just want to thank y'all again for being so supportive of my little Vlogmas 12-day experiment that I did in December. I do have a playlist if you're interested in watching that content and you haven't checked it out yet. But today I am super excited to share how I plan on structuring my beauty purchases this year. So of course I plan on explaining how I arrived at this decision, what this decision entails, all the details that I can share of it right now, and all of that. But first I just wanted to thank y'all for really helping with this so much. I asked in my last no-buy update what y'all's thoughts are on kind of the best path forward after a no-buy, because I know a lot of y'all have done no-buys before, and there was just a lot of really great feedback and thoughts in that comment section, and that have been shared with me on YouTube and Instagram. I'm on Instagram at clove_room. So I just want to say thank you. Like, it's really lovely to have an audience that's like very responsive and very much wanting to help and be a part of my buying journey, and it was really nice. So I appreciate that. And if you are new here, welcome to Clove Room. My name is Cam. I'm a non-binary and trans femme creator. I love to focus my content on beauty, but I usually do that through lenses of conscious consumerism or gender identity or sometimes pop culture, or sometimes I combine all three because they all kind of intertwine for me. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, I would love to have you as a subscriber, but if you need to catch the vibe first, I totally understand. I often do that with new folks on YouTube as well. And please give this video a like if you do end up enjoying it. It helps me a lot in the wild, wild west of the YouTube algorithm. Comment if you have any thoughts on how I'm structuring my beauty buying this year. If you are doing anything similar, different, etc., I would love to hear about it. I mean, if you like really think what I'm doing is wrong, I maybe don't want to hear about that. So for those who don't know, or just to catch us all up on the same speed, I did a 4-month no-buy at the conclusion of 2023. So from September to December, I instituted some rules where basically I could not buy any new makeup unless it was a 1-for-1 replacement. And I stuck to them. I'm really proud of myself. I stuck to them. It was the longest period I've had since I started purchasing makeup that I haven't bought makeup, which feels really good. It felt really good. I totally didn't participate in the Sephora sale at all. I didn't end up using their fake out 20% coupon weeks later that they offered, but I did not participate in the Sephora VIB sale, which is, I say that because that was often the worst of my spending would happen during the Sephora sale. I have a whole video on me kind of trying to figure out why the Sephora sale has such a chokehold on the beauty community. And I made it through without buying anything. I'm really proud to finally have missed a Sephora sale. And I feel really good about it. You know, it was harder toward the end because I found myself in emotional situations where I really wish I had beauty purchasing as a sort of outlet, but it obviously, I think, was good that I didn't. I did the no buy for a reason. I did it because financially I didn't want to spend money on makeup during that period. I did it because I wanted to figure out what size of collection I want. I'm really happy with the size of my collection now, and I'm really happy with what's in it and how much makeup I have. It feels manageable, but still like I have options, which is kind of what I want. I kind of want it to be like a minimalist plus type situation. And then came January, and I was not sure throughout December how I was going to approach my relationship with buying beauty this year. There was part of me that wanted to continue my no-buy. There was part of me that wanted to just go straight to like a budget. There was part of me that was like, maybe we do like low buy, Maybe it's a feast or famine type thing where 2 months are on buying, 1 month or 2 months off, that sort of thing. All those were also suggestions from y'all. And I went back to my goals that I mentioned earlier and what my goals and how my goals, if they did differ from when I started my no buy, which again, when I started my no buy, it was very much, I need to stop spending so much money on makeup because I don't have the money to spend on makeup that I somehow spend on it. And, now I'm in a situation of debt and having wished I had better used that money. And then I also just wanted less in my collection. I wanted to be able to maybe not use up every single product because that seems unlikely, but I wanted to not feel like I would never use up a product. And I will say I have a video coming that's going to be the makeup empties from my no buy, from my 4-month no buy, and I am really proud of how much makeup I finished during that time, and I want that to be standard for me. I want it to be standard that I'm finishing up products, that I don't have things just sitting around that much. Sometimes if it's a seasonal item or there's certain categories, I'm okay with that, but for the most part, I want, within a 2 or 3 month period, I kind of want to be able to have touched or used every piece of makeup at least once. And those two reasons were still the reasons. I still want to not buy as much makeup as I did before. I still wanted to have some limits on how much makeup I was buying. It felt important to not be able to buy too many foundations that I would never be able to go through before they expired, to buy too many concealers to go through before they expired. But then I also still want to spend less money. Both reasons still are germane for me. I still don't have a lot of disposable income and I want to do other things. I want to travel this year, spend money on other things like clothes or eating, dining, whatnot. And I want a financial constraint on how much I'm able to spend on makeup. And I'm also budgeting for the first time this year. So I thought, of course, makeup and beauty is a big part of my life. It is a big part of what I spend my disposable income on. So it should be a part of my budget, of course. And since I was already planning, I had a broader resolution. I'm not sure how I feel about resolutions, but just like a broader goal for this calendar year to have an actual budget that I keep track of with everything in my life. That goes beyond makeup. But since I was already happening, a beauty budget seemed to make sense. I thought for a second, like maybe I just do a no buy for a little bit longer. Maybe I extended 2 months or I have that feast or famine model. I feel like that's almost delaying something. And what I mean by that is I've done a no buy. It wasn't, the world's longest no buy. It wasn't a year-long no buy. It wasn't even a 6-month no buy. It was a 4-month no buy. But it's still, like, for me, a really long time without buying makeup. And I now know how to do that. And I think I could. I think I could go 2 more months without buying any new makeup, just doing 1-for-1 replacements. And I think that would be fine. I think I wouldn't have any big trouble with that. But it felt like I was almost delaying the challenge of how does my relationship evolve with beauty? How, now that I know that I want a smaller collection, now that I know that I want to place a real strict financial constraint on how much money I'm spending on beauty, I felt like I'm a little anxious, honestly. I'm a little anxious about if I can. And, I believe in myself and all of that, but it feels like a new challenge. And it actually felt like, and again, I don't think we should ever challenge ourselves too much that we, set ourselves up for failure. But it felt like the larger challenge, or the more rewarding challenge in this instant, wouldn't be to go 2 more months to do a 6-month no buy. It felt like the more rewarding and relevant challenge and useful challenge was to go ahead and try to start that responsible relationship with purchasing makeup. And also, to be frank, I now have I obviously have a YouTube channel. You're watching this on YouTube. This is on my YouTube channel. And it's not even for reviews. I don't see this ever being a review channel. I don't even know if I'll post, maybe I'll post a review this year. I am not too keen on making that type of content. I enjoy watching it, but I like doing more commentary-esque or discussion, almost, philosophy may be pushing it, but those types of videos in the beauty space are they are what I enjoy making. And I don't want to transition over to doing more reviews. I don't have a review budget. I have no interest in really having a channel budget in that way. I could see myself maybe starting to have a channel budget to like invest in technology or software, et cetera, et cetera. But right now I don't have any sort of channel review budget, and I'm not super interested in ever doing that. This budget that I'm about to explain is for me. It's my personal beauty budget. It's my number one priority right now with buying makeup is not YouTube. It's, no offense, not what my audience wants me to buy or what they want me to talk about. Again, no offense, but it's about what I want to buy. It's about what I think I'm going to get the most use out of, what I won't end up decluttering, what I'll end up keeping and using up or panning, or like I want things to be dirty. I want my products to be dirty, and I want them to feel really used, because that's what makes me the happiest. And this is not to say anything about people who what I'm about to say makes them happy, but I don't want, my beauty collection isn't me pulling brand new products that have hardly been swatched out of boxes. My beauty collection is like my mom's dirty, dusty, powdery makeup bag. That's what I want it to be. And that's a preference thing. Some people are collectors and really get joy out of having and being able to just see beautiful things. And that's awesome too, if that relationship with collecting fulfills you. As somebody who's sort of tried that or gone down that path, I just know that doesn't fulfill me. And, YouTube may factor in a little. I want to do single shadow content. I want to explore the indie world. I want to do that on YouTube. So that may factor into my purchasing, but it's all coming from the same personal makeup budget. And it all, I don't see myself ever just buying a new release because somebody wants me to review it, or buying a new release because I know posting a review about it will do well on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. I'm buying things for me to use, and I'm buying things for me to love. And if I don't think I'm going to really use it and really love it, then it has no interest being in my personal makeup collection. And so now I'll go ahead and actually explain what I plan on doing. I plan on having an overarching annual but doled out monthly beauty budget. So every month, I'm going to tell you the amount. I know some people shy away from giving amounts. I hope no one will judge me for the amount I'm going to spend on beauty. For me, it feels like a good amount that is going to be somewhat challenging, but not challenging, kind of both. As somebody who loves buying beauty products, I do love buying new things, and not just like new releases, but I just love experiencing and touching and using beauty products. So it is, like I said, it is a big part of my discretionary spending that I do. So I hope, I'm starting to blush, but I hope revealing the amount is okay and no one's going to judge me for it to try to talk me out of it, because I'm the only one who knows my finances, right? But every month I'm going to have $80. I did my budget and I said, when I was doing my overall budget, how much am I comfortable spending a month, and really a year? How much am I comfortable spending a year on beauty? And I looked at my projected earnings. I looked at how much of that I wanted to save, what I wanted to put in, certain funds, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, I think with how much I love beauty, how much I love buying new things, how much I think I will maybe need throughout the year with replacements, because we'll talk about replacements, $80 that I get every month makes sense for me. So every month I'm going to have $80 toward beauty and makeup items. This includes everything. There's no separate budget for replacements. If I need a new mascara, the mascara that I buy comes out of that $80. And it rolls I am going to have it to where if I don't spend all the $80 in a month, it rolls over to the next month. I cannot borrow ahead. So I can't say, okay, I really, like this month, I only have $80, but I really want a new Pat McGrath palette, let's say, and that's after the inevitable sale it's on. It's going to cost maybe $100. I can't say I'll just take 20 from next month. I cannot do that. I can only use the money I have now, and every month I'm giving myself the $80. Shipping, I am not including. If I have to pay any shipping for this, I'm not including it in my budget. And I'm not including it because I think I'm trying, and I've talked about this before, and I know it's hard to do because even when I'm like, it's so dumb that we buy more things and spend more just to get free shipping, but it's still a pitfall I fall into. I want to, like I talked about in my beauty resolutions video, the last video I posted, the finale of Clovemas, I want to try more indie brands. I want to try more brands that aren't just in Ulta and Sephora. And on a lot of those sites, free shipping only happens after you hit a certain amount. That would be either all of my budget or a large part of my budget. And I just foresee issues where I feel like I need to hit the shipping threshold. So I'm like, let's spend more of my budget, or maybe let's break my budget, which of course I don't want to do. And I just don't want shipping to get in the way of me buying only what I want to buy. I don't want to buy more things just to get shipping because I know it costs out of my budget. And usually shipping's only like $6 or $10 at the most. So I just think I'm going to buy smarter when I free myself of expecting shipping to be free. So that's why I'm not counting shipping toward my budget. Maybe that's something that y'all wouldn't think is important, but to me it's important to think through those things so that I have the answer that I can use and act on when it happens. Gift cards aren't going to count toward my budget. So I have a Sephora gift card. I got a Sephora gift card for Christmas. It's for like $75. That doesn't mean I can only spend $5 of my own money on makeup this month. I'm going to use that, and then I still have my $80 budget. And I think that explains the budget. It includes replacements. It does roll over to the next month. I cannot borrow ahead. And I will say I'm going to revisit my budget in June. June 1st is the earliest I can up my budget, because maybe I will be making more money at that point. I don't know. I don't really have plans to, but it would be nice if I did. Maybe some situation will have changed. Like, I don't know. I just want to give myself the option. And again, it's me thinking ahead on if something like that does happen where I have more disposable income and I want to put it toward makeup. If I want to have an answer for myself that's like, is it okay that I change my budget now? I'm going to revisit it in June. So if I want to increase, decrease, etc., that'll happen in June. I plan on doing this the entire year, but again, we'll revisit all of this in June. But I plan for this to be my 2024, is having this overarching budget structure. Now, I say overarching because there is another part of this. And what I mentioned earlier is that financial issues are not the only reason I'm doing and really thinking heavily about how I consume makeup. I also once had too much. Now I'm really happy with the size of my collection. So I was thinking, if I am going to start buying makeup again, how can I make sure I don't have too much? Even with the financial constraints, I know what kind of products I like, but I also know what stresses me out when I have too many of them. So how do I control that? And my solution, and I think many people's, but I'm going to go category by category. And what I mean is that I have, I think, 3 different kind of rules for buying certain amounts of products. And of course, all this has to fit within the $80 a month I have to spend on the thing, or more if I had budget rollover from the month before. But then once I'm interested in something, I have to look at this and be like, okay, is this something that I have space for in my collection right now? Or will I need to get rid of something to buy it? So this is just, again, me wanting to make sure I'm using up everything in my collection, making sure I don't have too much that it doesn't stress me out and gives me Toy Story vibes of some, a primer singing When Somebody Loves Me or Loved Me by Sarah McLachlan. I don't want any of that. So this feels like it's addressing the part of my issues, let's say, or some of the struggles I have with consuming makeup, which is the making sure I don't buy too much, making sure I'm still buying a reasonable amount within each category. Because I, at this point, know what I'm comfortable with having more of and what I want less of. So the first category is the most restrictive category. It's 1 for 1. So I don't want any more quantity of these categories. So this includes primer, and I'm putting multi-use shimmer goos in this. This was something I really had to think about. How do you categorize a Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter? That's a product I have right now. Where would I put that? And I use it for highlight. I use it sometimes as like a skin tint. I use it as a primer a lot. Today I used it kind of primer slash skin tint. I used it before I used some Glossier skin tint on top. So I just said, you know what, anything that's that multi-use shimmer goo that I'm very tempted by and that I often have way too many of, I'm going to include in a primer category. So primers are only 1 for 1. And what I mean by 1 for 1 is that I have to either use up or declutter a product in order to bring a new one in. And I am giving myself the option of decluttering. If I'm really not liking a product, I'm not reaching for it at all, I'm not going to torture myself to use it, and I'm also not going to waste space in my collection to have it. I don't want to do this that much because I don't love decluttering. If you watch my declutter, you know how I talked about I don't get joy out of watching things that I paid money for leave without being used. That's not fun for me. So I want to avoid that. But if there is a situation where I'm like, I know this product will just sit and waste and there's something I would like to purchase within my budget, I want to be able to purchase it and then move that product out. Or again, if I use up a product, then I will have space for a product of that category. So like I said, primers, including multi-use shimmer goos, are in this category. Eyeshadow palettes. Now, how am I doing 1 for 1 with eyeshadow palettes, you may ask? This is interesting. The declutter thing is still true for this. So if I declutter an eyeshadow palette, and I'm including quads in this, I don't really have that many quads, but anything that's more than like a 3-pan in my collection, or is a 3-pan or more, I'm counting as a palette. So like my Glossier monochrome, I would count as a palette. Tom Ford quad, I would count as a palette. Visear quad, I would count as a palette, just as I would count something large like a Pat McGrath Mothership as a palette. They're all palettes, they're all eyeshadow palettes. And if I declutter one, I will have space for one. I'm still doing that traditional 1 for 1 rule. However, obviously it's really hard to use up eyeshadow palettes or just more time consuming, especially if they have more pans in them. So the way I am doing this is that if I need to hit pan in an eyeshadow before I can buy another eyeshadow palette. So the 1 for 1 with eyeshadow palettes is either I declutter one or I hit pan in an eyeshadow. And that means I can buy a new eyeshadow palette. And again, once I'm able to do that, it still has to be within my budget. I hope that makes sense. Mascara is something I always just do 1 for 1 on. I don't like having a lot of mascaras. I don't need a brown one. I don't need a black one. I just kind of need one. So mascara is included in this. And then face powder is included in this. I just don't use that much face powder. And even though it is a product I've used up a face powder or two before, it's just not something that I get a lot of joy out of testing. I'm not super into powders, so that'll be an easy thing, I think, for me. Like, I have 3 right now that I consider face powders that aren't in palettes, and that's a separate category. So I think having 3 is plenty for me, and I can just rotate them out if I need to. And going 1 for 1 with that totally works for me. Next category is slightly less restrictive. It's the 1 for 1 plus 1, like John and Kate plus 8, but it's the 1 for 1 plus 1, so it's actually really different. There's not a darkness looming over a household of a million children as their parents confuse the viewer on how they ever loved each other. It is instead the 1 for 1 plus 1. So what this is same rules as before. So if I want to buy a new product in a category, I need to either declutter a product in that category or I need to have used one up completely. However, I am, with the plus 1, allowing myself to bring 1 new quantity of item in my collection. So one of the categories in the 1 for 1 plus 1 is foundation / skin tints. So what that means is, I don't remember the exact number I have, but if I have like 4 or 5, let's say I have 4 foundations or skin tints. So if I want to bring one in and I don't want to declutter one of those, or I haven't come close to emptying one, or I haven't emptied one of those up, I can add one just whole new one. So I can have up to 5 foundations or skin tints. I don't have to get rid of something. And that's just because these categories I feel less overstuffed in. Like, I could bring in 1 more product, and I know how much I like a lot of the items I have in these categories, and I wouldn't want to declutter or rush using anything up. So this to me felt like a good solution for that, having a 1-for-1 plus one. And the categories in this one are foundations / skin tints, or tinted moisturizers, tinted sunscreen. Basically anything that's like an all-over complexion product is included in this. Bronzer, that includes powder, creams, liquids, whatnot, any type of bronzer. Same for contour, powder, cream, or liquid. Highlighter, including powder, and also including cream or liquid if it's like really just a highlighter. If it's not like a Charlotte Tilbury or a Glow Lust, Lisa Eldridge, etc., etc. If it's really a unitasking highlight, that is included in this category. And again, and I just have written here, not multi-purpose shimmer goose. That's not included with this 1-for-1 plus one. That's in the primer category, which is the 1-for-1 category. And next is the category with the least amount of restrictions, and it's simply called no restrictions. So this one, I am not really wanting to downsize. Maybe I'm more than welcome to, obviously, if I feel like I should swap something out, or if I have emptied anything out, I can do a 1-for-1 replacement. But I am also free, again, as long as it's okay with my overarching budget, to buy as many of these things as I want. Within reason, I would hope. But there aren't any set restrictions with this part of the project. And this includes blush, powder, cream, liquid. That may be a surprising one because I feel like blush is one of the larger categories of my collection. But it's a product that I've really enjoyed experimenting with. It was one of the things I wanted the most during my no-buy, which my friend Colin eventually ended up sending me, which was very sweet. I really wanted a new shade of blush, and it's just a category I've been really enjoying iterating and experimenting with, and I want to have the freedom to do that. And blush to me is almost like complexion eyeshadow, where it's fun and makes sense to have a lot of different types of formulas, a lot of different types of colors. It's something I enjoy. And even with having more, I still, hit pan or have really noticed me using up certain blushes. So that's why I'm okay with having blushes and no restrictions. Single eyeshadows, so not eyeshadow palettes, but obviously single eyeshadows. That's a product I mentioned in my makeup resolutions that I just really want to explore more this year, and I want to have the freedom to do that. I thought about maybe being like no more than 20, but like since I haven't really bought just single eyeshadows in so long, it kind of felt like a arbitrary number that I'd be making up that I would have no data to support really. So I just said, let's just have no restrictions, see how it goes. Setting spray. I don't really buy more than one setting spray at a time, but it's also not a product that I would mind having 2 or 3 of because I do go through setting spray pretty quickly. So I just was like, I don't feel like the need to restrict that. Lip products. I've been kind of unhappy with my lip product collection lately, so I definitely want the freedom. I keep saying freedom, but I just want that to be less restrictive. And when I buy lip products, including lip liners, sticks, balms, glosses, any of that. Face palettes. I only have 2. I have one that's like a cream and one that's a powder one. I don't really want more face palettes, but I also, if they're like, I didn't know how to categorize it with the 1+1 thing, so I was just like, just put it under no restrictions. I don't think I will even want a new face palette at any time this year, unless maybe later on this year when the Hourglass palette's released. So put that under there. Eye primers. I usually only have 1 at a time, but it just felt, I don't really have an issue. Like the rest of this is really like stuff I don't have at all an issue with purchasing more of, but I didn't feel the need to restrict myself. And that's things like eye primer, eyeliner, liquid or cream eyeshadows, beauty tools, and color correctors. So that's my structure. I'm really excited to get started. I have a $75 Sephora gift card burning a hole in my pocket right now. I have plans right now to go shopping with a couple of friends. We're going to go actually to an IRL Sephora and shop together. So I'm excited to do that. Spend probably most, if not all, of that gift card. Maybe a little bit of my budget too, because there are some products I have my eye on. And we'll see. I'm really excited. I do plan on doing monthly budget check-ins. So after the month is over, reflecting on what I spent, how much I have left, if I do have any left, what are the frustrations I've been feeling, things like that. But I'm really excited. This feels doable, but it feels like a new experience for me in being more responsible with what I purchase, which is my ultimate goal. So I'm really excited. It feels like I'm tethered to something and my feet are on the ground, and it makes, like, things make sense. That being said, not a lot of new releases have happened this year. There are products I'm interested in and curious about, but nothing that is right now really out of my budget at this point, since I have that $75 Sephora gift card and $80 to spend this month on beauty. Everything from what I want feels pretty attainable. So I think as, maybe the year goes on and maybe I have a month where I maybe only have $80 and it may be difficult to resist buying something. I don't know how it'll turn out. Maybe I've given myself too much. I'm kind of curious about if I've given myself too much, but $80 for the type of beauty products I like doesn't feel like, I'm interested in trying Westman Atelier. I want to try more from Victoria Beckham, and $80 is kind of a product and a half with a lot of those brands. I know a lot of them have minis and things like that. I don't really like minis. I don't reach for minis, so I don't know. I'm just really curious. I'm very, very curious. I'm very curious on how this will steer my spending. I'm usually a person where even with eyebrow products or mascara, I like higher end formulas, but I'm wondering if now that I finally have a set budget, if I will start to be like, no, like I want luxury in these areas, but I'm fine to hold back and spend less in these areas. I don't know. I'm just excited. I think it's going to be a good year. I'm excited for how I'm going to structure this. Oh, I did want to add in, I didn't say this, I don't think, but I will still be, I don't receive any PR right now, and I don't plan on receiving PR for the foreseeable future. It hasn't been offered, so it hasn't really been something I've had to come to a decision on, but I do plan on still accepting friend mail and gifts from my family, and those will not have to adhere to these stringent rules. So if a friend wants to send me a gift of a what's the product that's in the 1-for-1? If they want to send me a primer that does not, like, I don't need to do a 1-for-1 with that primer. That primer will just come into my collection. And I can maybe decide, I want that to count as or something like that. But I want to be able to accept, because a reality of my life now is that I have friends who are content creators who do receive PR and want to sometimes pass it along, and I'm happy to receive and that's fun. So that is something that will exist outside of the structure, is any gifts from friends or family. That will not have to adhere to these rules. And I just wanted to state that so that, again, I just have it on the record. It's my decision toward that. And so y'all would know if I do end up if someone ends up sending me a random shimmer goo, it doesn't have to, like, I don't have to trade it out for a primer or use up a primer before I open it or anything like that. Because I don't know, I do love receiving gifts, and it's something that brings me joy, and I don't feel the need to be that restrictive. Because this also isn't happening every week. It's probably like 2 or 3 times a year where this sort of thing happens. But I just wanted to say that. I hope that makes sense. I feel like a lot of this is very complicated, and maybe needlessly so. But for me, it's good to just make sure I've thought through the moral dilemmas I may face down this road of buying makeup this year, and just thinking through it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. I'm pretty happy, like I said, with it, but I would love to know what you're doing, how your relationship with beauty spending is starting off the year, if you're starting off strong, if you're wanting to maybe think about doing a project. I would love to hear about it in the comments. Again, give this video a big like. It helps me along the wild, wild west of the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you would like to see future content. Like I said, I'm planning to do budget check-ins, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more conscious consumerism content coming if that's the type of thing you are into. And I just really appreciate y'all being here. Bye, y'all.